How's it going, guys? This week we're going to be taking a look at what I consider to be the best solar weapon in the game. Now, it's no spoiler because the thumbnail very clearly shows it, and that is Vex Mythoclast. Yes, Vex Mythoclast is a raid weapon from the Vault of Glass, so some people may not have it. I mean, it took me 52 runs to actually get this thing, but if you have it, this is easily one of the best solar weapons in the game, not only for just this season, but in general for basically every time, everyday use, for every activity you want to use it in. And I am here today to prove that to you from both a PvE perspective and a PvP perspective, alongside giving you a build where you can maximize it and use it to its fullest potential. So with that, like, comment, and subscribe, as all of those things help me out a ton. And let's have a quick seconds ago, we are taking a look at Vex Mythoclast. Now, Vex Mythoclast is a raid weapon that you get from Vault of Glass. Luckily, Vault of Glass is actually really easy to do, and it is a free raid, meaning every player has access to this raid. So every player has access to this weapon. You just gotta put in the work, find good teams, and be able to get through this quickly to get this weapon. Once you do get this weapon, you then have probably the best solar weapon in your arsenal. Vex Mythoclast comes with the exotic trait Timeless Mythoclast. This weapon fires full auto when it is in its default firing mode. Although Vex is a fusion rifle, it uses primary ammo and behaves more like a high impact auto rifle, as it also shoots at 360 rounds per minute. It also has the trait Temporal Unlimiter. Defeating targets builds stacks of overcharge. Hold reload, or whatever your input is, to swap firing modes when fully overcharged. In the alternative firing mode, hold the trigger to charge up a more powerful linear fusion shot. Overcharge stacks are really easy to get. In PvE, one target is one stack, and in PvP, I believe a Guardian is 2 stacks of overcharge. This linear firing mode makes Vex hit like an absolute truck, as it deals a ton of damage while also still be considered primary ammo and only consuming 1 ammo from its magazine. Its catalyst gives it calculated balance, while in full auto mode, final blows with this weapon grant bonus damage, accuracy, and stability for a short duration. This is going to give us a 25% damage bonus when we defeat targets in its base mode, making it very easy to stack up these overcharged stacks, and again makes it hit even harder and makes it able to just chew through ads to get those overcharged stacks with ease. For stats on Vex, we're going to take a look at its PvP side of things first. It has 77 aim assist, meaning that inside of PvP it's going to be pretty sticky, and even in air it has some pretty decent airborne effectiveness of 19. It has a range of 85 with 80 recoil direction. For PvP, these numbers are very important. With its 85 range, according to the D2 Foundry, we're looking at a range of roughly 33 meters, which isn't awful when compared to other 360s, as that's all we can really compare this to, as it is a very hybrid weapon. However, it does do a little bit more damage than your normal 360s. It does 26 to the body and roughly 41 to 42 damage per crit. There's some rounding there, so it does make it a little inconsistent sometimes. When I was playing, I mostly saw 41s. So that's all very good. This also does increase when we have the catalyst active by that 25% bonus, but base, it gives it an optimal TTK of 0.83 seconds, which is actually really good in this sandbox. I had a ton of fun using it in PvP to get the footage, even though I am not good at PvP myself. In PvE, however, I love this thing. It is a menace. Against red bars, we're doing 5,303 damage per crit and 3,444 damage per body. Against bosses, we're doing 5,003 per crit and 3,131 per body. These values are also increased by 25% when the catalyst is active, making it even better. But this thing really shines when we use it against champions. It does 3,050 per crit and 1,908 per body against a stunned champion. However, when we use its linear firing mode, that crit gets bumped all the way up to 120,619, which is a massive bump. Then we pair it with things like Radiant, Torch, our 3 surge mods, and Revitalizing Blast, we get a number of 138,712, which is roughly a 4,450% increase from its base crit damage, meaning we can chunk champions with ease. Also, if something I mentioned doesn't stack correctly and doesn't work, let me know, because even to this day, damage stacking confuses the hell out of me. Also, the numbers you see in the background footage are different because of two things. First, Guardian Games empowerment buff, I forgot that was a thing, and I was running Guardian Games playlist and Solar Surge modifier in the Nightfall. The testing itself for these numbers was done without either of those things included, so the numbers you're seeing here are base, just what we have going on with mods and artifacts and buffs from ourselves, nothing to do with Guardian Games or Solar Surge modifiers. With all those numbers in mind, we want to be able to maximize this all the time. I already mentioned Torch and Revitalizing Blast from the artifact, and having that 3x Surge mod helps out a ton, but we also want to be Radiant all the time, and the Solar class itself does that very well. But I want to have it even more than that, and there are two options. First is going to be the artifact mod Flint Striker, where weapon precision hits or solar rapid final blows grant you Radiant, or my favorite exotic to pair with this, Rain of Fire. This is a Warlock leg exotic, which comes with the exotic trait Soaring Fusilier. Air dodge reloads all your weapons and improves the airborne effectiveness of fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles. Final blows with these weapons make you Radiant, provides moderate benefit to the airborne effectiveness stat of fusion rifles and linear fusion rifles. When we get a defeat with a fusion rifle or a linear fusion rifle, we're going to get Radiant for 7.5 seconds, and Vex is a fusion rifle, so we will be Radiant constantly. There are also other really good exotic options you can use for this on other classes. For Hunter, you can take Foe Tracer, which is also really good for getting that Surge mod, and the same can be said for Path of the Burning Steps on Titans. For the air dodge part, there are actually two options. First being Icarus Dash, which is the obvious option, and the second being Weave Walk, which for a while I didn't actually know counted as an air dash when it comes to this particular exotic. And since Weave Walk counts as an air dodge, we can actually use this with Strand very effectively. For our Strand subclass, we're going to take the aspects Weave Walk, as it is our air dodge, and Mind Spun Invocation in order to get more out of our grenades. For fragments, we're taking Threat of Isolation, so rapid precision hits does a severing burst and debuffs targets. This does count for Vex, Threat of Generation so we can get more grenade energy back, and Threat of Continuity so our Strand debuffs last longer. The Strand setup is really nice, constantly taking advantage of Torch and getting that extra damage basically all the time, but I am not a huge fan of Weave Walk as it does take longer to do the animations going into it and out of it, so I prefer the Solar setup. For that, we're going to take the aspects Icarus Dash for our air dodge and Touch of Flame to get more utility out of our grenades, very similar to our Strand setup. For fragments, I like to use Ember of Mercy to get restoration from fire sprites, Ember of Tempering to get that extra recovery and make those fire sprites for Ember of Mercy, Ember of Solace so our solar buffs last longer, and Ember of Ashes so we can build up more Scorch so we can cause ignitions. This last fragment you can change to be whatever you want to run, honestly. For weapons I like to use alongside Vex, I either take my Chill Clip Riptide or a Scatter Signal with Slice, and for heavy, I either use Cataclysmic or Briar's Contempt, but you can use whatever you want to use for your supporting weapons. As for mods, Harmonic or Solar Siphon to make orbs depending if you're running your Solar subclass or your Strand subclass, Solar Surge mods to increase your damage, and Time Dilation so this way our Surge mods can stick around for a little longer are really the only armor mods you need for this build. Other than that, you can go with whatever else you want because again, very flexible. Overall, this build is extremely fun and it is extremely potent. This build puts out some serious damage against combatants inside of PvE, and you can easily melt down targets inside of PvP with things like Radiant because you are going to be wanting to wear Rain of Fire so you become Radiant with ease, and again that 25% buff from the Catalyst also takes effect. You're not going to go anything crazy changing your TTK inside of PvP, but it does make it a lot easier if you're not hitting that optimal TTK. It brings that down, it shifts around the resilience values of what you can get, so it's very good. But with that is the end of this video. Like if you liked the video, comment if you also want to see more videos like this. It's a new format of things that I'm trying to do. Instead of just making the exotic armor, I'm looking at the weapons themselves, trying to break it down. So comment if you like this form of content, and of course subscribe if you want to come back and see more as we go into the Into the Light update that comes out on April 9th. So I will see you guys in the next video.